Welcome to Road to Redemption, a show sharing powerful life testimonies, giving hope to those on their own road to redemption.
Welcome into Road to Redemption. My name is Nate. Here at Destiny Radio, we love to hear stories. We love to hear testimonies. And so that's the purpose of this show and this podcast that we have. It's a show where we share powerful life testimonies that give hope to people. And today I have some dear friends in the studio with me, Jake and Aimee Wilders. What's up, guys?
Hello.
What's up, brother?
Hey, man. That's awesome. So I'm thankful that y'all came in. That Jake and Aimee have 6 kids. Yep, I said it right. 6 kids. I don't always know their names.
It's okay, got the number.
Neither do we.
We don't either.
Yeah, and you guys do the head count when you come out of restaurants or theme parks or okay.
Primary colors, red, blue, green.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're not mixing up any weird colors. Or just
Just
you're
count to
red
6.
today.
Whichever kid comes. And I
You don't
count to
do like
6.
thing 1, thing 2, like in the Dr. Seuss.
No.
Okay.
We don't have enough.
They don't have
There's
enough
not enough. They don't make enough
shirts.
shirts. So they have 6. They've been married. How long you guys?
12, 13
13
years.
Oh, come on.
13.
13.
13 years. That's
It changed.
awesome.
I always forget it.
Yeah, changes every year.
Yeah, and they're business owners, entrepreneurs, and worship leaders, and that's really how I know them here at Destiny. Just leading worship with them.
Yeah, Nate actually took my job here at Destiny.
Well, not exactly like
Kind
that. It was many years later, but they're great, and I started leading with them at the Destin campus here, and then now I'm mostly serving at the Freeport campus every
Which
weekend.
is where we're at also, which we
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I've been blessed to be up there. And so, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about, let's go back to like how y'all met and your story of, before you were married. What did that look like?
Sure. Well, like any good love story, we met at youth group. That's where church kids meet each other. You don't go to youth group for the skates or the games. You go to find a spouse. And so it was actually kind of a funny story. I was a youth leader, and Aimee was a youth.
It wasn't a youth.
Okay, you were in youth.
This is just a better story if he says it that way.
And Pastor Wayne.
Starting off a little weird already.
I know, right?
Pastor Wayne, Asperiditis, had kind of seen us goofing off for a long time. Was like, you need to ask Aimee out. And I was like, well, no, Amy's a youth. And I was 19 and had just bought a house.
17, 2 years.
I was on staff.
And I was graduating.
I was on staff at the church, and I was somebody. She was just this little kid, even though I was, in love with her. But I had to pretend that I wasn't. So
Right.
I was like, okay, well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll think about it. And so asked her
So
out.
Pastor Wayne was the matchmaker.
Yeah, Pastor Wayne was the mastermind behind the whole thing. And actually, I guess if to really give you a better idea of the story, it was really an amazing God thing, not to over spiritualize it. But my mom was the worship leader at Destiny in 2004 and 2005.
Awesome.
And so her family had planned on moving here. My brother had just passed away about a year before, and her brother had passed away about a year before that. And
Wow, I didn't realize it was so close.
Yeah, it was real close. And we didn't know each other. And my mom was the worship leader, and she had gotten off a stage after worship, and the service had ended, and saw her mom, who was here scouting churches, just trying to find where they were going to go because they hadn't moved. They were in Shreveport, Louisiana, and so they were scouting churches. And my mom just kind of saw her and realized she was new and grabbed her. And then how church ladies do. 35 minutes later, they're still talking and
Life stories have come
talked
out.
about how they had both just lost a son, and it was kind of kismet. And my mom said, well, my son, he was the piano player this morning. And she said, well, I have 3 daughters, and one of them's married, but 2 of them are unmarried.
Yeah.
And they kind of laughed. And my mom came back and told me, I met this lady today at church, and she was so sweet, and she has a daughter.
Yeah.
They're moving here, and they lost their son, and apparently her mom had gone back and told her, found a church, the piano player's cute, and and he lost her brother, and so I didn't really think much of it at the time. It was just like, yeah, whatever. I didn't know if she was pretty or not, so it didn't matter. And so I remember going on. My cousin Josh and I went to Orlando like 2 weeks after that, and on the way back, just listening to some worship music, and I just felt a little drop in my spirit. And I'm not one to say God told me. Never heard the audible voice of God, but when just something drops in your spirit and it feels right. It feels peaceful. And I felt like the Lord told me that, that girl that your mom was talking to you about, that's your wife.
Wow.
And
No
you know,
pressure.
and I kept, worshiping just in the car. Josh was probably asleep. He's a napper, and forgot about it.
Yeah.
And maybe 5-6 months later, we were hanging out and friends. And then when we started to realize that, I realized that she was the girl that my mom had told me about 6 months ago. It just kind of all clicked, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
That's cool.
And then, that was.
Aimee, were you feeling the same, or did you get that? Did God tell you that too?
Yeah,
or?
I felt when my mom came back, I kind of felt a little, and it was more my friend that I grew up with. She was like, Aimee, like, what if that's your husband? And I was like, Mary, stop, that's weird. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's enough. Like, I'm 17. I'm not
Right.
even thinking about that. And, but then came here, and I was actually like, yeah, he's cute. He played the piano. But then when I saw him at youth, I'm like, he wore these oversized Rams jerseys and backwards hats. And I was like, this dude, like, he needs work.
So like exactly what he wears, exactly what he still wears today.
Exactly
Okay,
the
got it.
same.
Hey,
so
So you
still cannot
look good.
teach-
You look
cannot
good.
teach him how to dress.
Thank you for dressing up today,
Yes.
man.
He did.
So wow. So did you ever picture like, okay, one day our life is going to look like we're going to have 6 kids, we're going to be worship
Yeah.
leaders and,
Well,
and musicians.
I
and,
wanted 10 kids. And
You
I
wanted
told them
10
that.
kids?
I wanted 10.
Okay.
And we were dating because he was like, how many kids you want? Like, I want like 4, you know. I was like, no, I want 10. So, I mean, you can get out now if you want, but that's how many kids
If
I'm
you
going
want
to
an out,
have.
that's your out.
He was like, I mean, yeah, I guess that's fine. So,
That's kind of the brief history of Aimee and I. So we've been married 13 years.
we did it. That's right.
And we've been through the ringer a little bit. I think everybody who's been married, you may not hear the stories, and I think that's what I love about what you guys are doing is you get to hear some of the stories because not a lot of people air their dirty laundry out, for the world or even for their friends, or family members. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I know that end up divorced. I'm like, oh, I thought you guys were good.
Correct.
I thought everything was
Right.
fine.
That's such a problem.
But here's the thing: nobody's good all the time. We got pregnant maybe 2 months after we got married, and then we lost our first baby, miscarried. And then, of course, that was devastating. She was 18, I was 20, and it was the end of the world.
For
and what
sure.
if we're never able to have kids? And it's just kind of funny now thinking about, that we have 6.
Yeah.
And then we got pregnant really quick after. I say we,
I know. It's always we with him.
we both gained 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we got pregnant. And then, Joel was born, and then that was just kind of the beginning of it. And we just kept kind of popping them out
Again, we.
more and more.
Yeah,
and more.
yeah. Hey, he helped too. So here's my question. So like you guys, so knowing that you wanted to have, kids and being a family, were you in the ministry at this time, or were you like, what was your, like, what did you want to do, like occupation wise? And
I was on staff here at Destiny as, I don't even know what I did. I was one of the worship leaders, but, I was an assistant worship leader. I did youth worship, video work. I took out the trash here and there. Youth, helped with youth, did a whole bunch of
Whatever
stuff.
they need.
Yeah.
Helped with music directing. I was so young too,
Yeah.
so it's all I did. I had nothing else. It was just work at the church.
Gotcha.
And so that was what I wanted to do for my life was, I wanted to be a worship leader and or a pastor or some combination of the two. And even though we're not in, quote unquote full-time ministry now, I think we're still doing exactly what we want to do ministry wise. I think that's another big misconception is that you have to be paid by the church to be in full-time ministry or to be in ministry.
Right.
And really that's just not the case. Honestly, I was at Destiny and then I worked at another church in Statesboro for 6 months. Then I started working as a musician in the nightclubs, and then got a church job at a Methodist church, and then I was doing nightclub and Methodist church. And I will say I did more real one-on-one personal like alleyway ministry at the nightclubs than I ever did in church. And not that
why do you think that is?
probably a lot to do with me. I struggled in the church world because I never really knew who I was. I was always trying to be somebody else. I was trying to imitate this pastor, imitate that pastor, and all the while doing a really bad job at being them and never really figured out how to be me. I spent so much time trying to be a professional Christian that I forgot to actually be a Christian. My relationship with God had just, fallen to the wayside because I was so busy worrying about what other people thought of me in the church and how I was perceived by my leaders or by the people that I was leading. But then in the nightclub world, I was able to just be me.
Yeah, the mask comes off.
The mask came off. I realized that I really do love people. and I do have a heart for the broken. And when I see somebody that's hurting, and there's a lot of hurting people in nightclubs. I don't know if you've known this or not.
Well, there's a lot of people hurting too in churches. I think, like you said, like they just sometimes have a mask on because they feel like they have to. They feel like,
you're exactly right, Aimee, and I agree. I think everybody on the platform, off the platform, there's something about church when you come in there, you're like, all right, cool. My Sunday morning mask is on. I'm gonna do my thing. You know, I don't want to get too vulnerable here, and going back to the marriage thing, as squirrel, sorry, you know, but going back to the marriage thing, I think that same thing happens in marriage. A problem with people that you see so many people that will walk through a divorce or. It usually always comes back to this one thing that they didn't feel that they had anybody safe to talk to.
Sure.
So they're just carrying this by themselves for so long. And it's not at all. And that's the entire point of this show is just say, hey guys, you're able to look at somebody's destination. That's great. But there was a journey there too. Yeah. It wasn't always, you know, because we can look at the successful, whoever it is, business person.
Right. Most
pastor.
Billionaires have declared bankruptcy 3 or 4 times.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like,
most successful marriages have been on the brink of divorce 3 or 4 times.
Like we've been there and here's how we got through it. And I find that very encouraging. And so, but you're right with the church thing. It's something, it's wrong. And, you know, I think we can do a better job as Christians to help with that, you know, and to just take people, because that's what Jesus does. He takes us as we are currently, not improved Nate, or like, you know what I mean? Like once Jake finishes up his act, then Jesus will love it. No, like as is, and he wants a better life for us.
Yeah.
So, what does that look like when you're like trying to do this, you know, nightclub till late into the morning, probably, you know, doing that, you know, and trying to pay the bills. I get it. And playing Mustang Sally in Sweet Home Alabama for 4 hours. And then you come to church the next morning, like, what is that life like, you know, when you're trying to manage like a home full of kids? Yeah.
It was interesting. So before I even sang there, he was doing it without me. And I think that was harder than all of it because he was gone and then he had to like, you know, sleep afterwards because he would get home at 3 a.m. And that was when we lived in Crestview. So it was even later than that. He was driving. But so that was a hard part on our marriage for me personally because I felt a little neglected. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, he's gone all the time and I'm here by myself with all the kids. And I felt like he was playing. I didn't even think of it as, oh, he's making money. It was, oh, he gets to go play and do music and hang out with grownups. And I had to talk to my best friends for. Yeah. But after that, like we worked through a lot of that. And then when I came on, it was great for me. It's interesting because it's a nightclub. You think like wild, crazy, but I was like, I learned how to be a better worship leader because I felt I was challenged more there with certain songs or him saying, hey, speak to the crowd. I'm like, I don't talk to people. Like that's weird. And so I've benefited so much from doing that. And then as far as juggling the kids, like it was at night, so it was better. And I'm already on like mom mode all the time. So I sleep like 4 hours and I'm fine. Right. And so it wasn't much difference as far as the sleep wise goes. I was able to recuperate quickly. It was hard when we started doing church and the nightclub because we would Saturday nights till 2 or 3 in the morning and then be at church at 6:45 or 7, whatever time we got here. But it was always refreshing. I never regretted it. Like when I got here, I felt like I was being refueled, like serving and stuff. So, because that's what he says, like, how are you doing that? Like, that's too much. Like, you shouldn't be volunteering that much. I was like, you don't get it. Like, that's my fuel for the whole week. Like, I have to be here. Yeah. So,
but I mean, but the nightclub, that season of our life is really what brought our, you know, need for the road to redemption. Up. We were struggling long before I worked at the nightclub. You know, we had stuff that we just hadn't talked about. You know, I was harboring so much resentment towards you. I think, you know, for me, having so many kids and then seeing your wife being such a fantastic mom. So for all the listeners,
when you say towards you, do you mean towards me?
Obviously.
Or towards, okay, gotcha.
Everyone knows we're talking about Nate.
I don't resent you, Nate.
What are you mad at me for? I didn't do.
Well, I mean, you did stand me up for coffee last week.
Oh,
but I got over it.
We never nailed it down.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of marriages, you know, sometimes it's not just one thing. You know, nobody just wakes up and decides to just cheat on their spouse for the most part. Sure. Like it's always a building up process. And we just had a real long building up process of resentment, and then me working in the nightclub just kind of brought it all to the surface.
The resentment came from, for him, I think, me feeling like I had to be super mom because people would say that to me and they're like, oh, you're a super mom because I had so many kids. And I was like, okay, I have to put on that mask. Like people have to see that I have it all together at all times. And so I felt my number one goal was be mom and it wasn't be wife first because that's what you were. And he made you a mom. So I catered to the kids, and they kind of needed me, but I catered to that a lot.
But I became, in my mind at least, I became just the guy who pays the bills and, who helps with the kids when I get home. And it was like we had lost our friendship.
Yeah.
We had just become, roommates, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
Like we had lost a lot of the affection, and we got to the point when, and I think a lot of marriages do this, when you're upset at the other person, instead of you walking closer to them and them walking closer to you, you both turn around and walk further and further away from each other, thinking that if I get as far away from them as possible, they'll chase me down. I was talking to Aimee about this on the way in here. I think,
or they'll see that I'm right.
Or they'll feel guilty, or they'll, whatever it is, you make it about you. Sometimes I think what we do with marriage is we play, it's like a game of hide and seek, but you're both hiding. Have you ever played hide and seek before, where like your friend or your family member gives up or never looks for you,
right.
and you're like
still hiding,
and you're hiding in a closet in a box under winter coats, and you're dying of sweat, and 2 hours later you come out and they're all playing video games.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's what our marriage was for about 18 months.
Yeah.
I was
on autopilot,
hiding from her, waiting for her to find me.
Right.
She was hiding from me, waiting for me to find her.
Right.
And really, what we both needed to be doing was seeking God.
Yep.
And finding each
That's what
other.
I was going to say. It's really like marriages, man. I just tell people, like, let's simplify things. Let's pursue the Lord. There's this perfect diagram, this perfect chart of what it's like, God here in the center, right? And it just branches out, and then there's us. And so, I mean, I think that so many people are hearing this and relating to this, that there's probably wives, and it's not always this way, but if the wife is at home, maybe wondering, what's he out doing? I know he's working late, and then the husband's in this mindset of like, I'm working hard for this family. I don't feel appreciated. We do this study here at church called Love and Respect. And then Miss Jackie's a big proponent of proponent. Is that the right word? Yeah. And so she loves love and respect, and my wife has done it. It's just a great study that like when we both want both of those things. But I know that wives, they want to feel loved, and typically husbands want to feel respected. And it's like, how can we give each other both of these things? Okay, so, but fast forwarding, you've obviously had some healing in your marriages. What was like a turning point? Like road to redemption, where were you? Where do you feel like your marriage was redeemed?
Mine was kind of similar to the previous story you were talking about. Like I just decided to give up, and I was like, okay, I can't fix him. I can't change him. So I got to change myself. I got to start working. But that was the kind of turning point for me. Was I just was like, okay, I'm stressed enough. I was going to nursing school. Like I had all these like things I could list off that were causing my stress. I was like, okay, what's the solution? So I just started reading my Bible. I started watching like Joyce Meyer's videos, like old videos. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I had no idea. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, if she can get through this stuff, like I have no excuse.
Yeah.
Like, so I would go out, I would get up before everybody else did. I would go out on the back porch. They lived on a lake, little lake thing, and I'd go out there, read my Bible, watch Joyce Meyer, and then I would go sit in my vehicle and listen to worship music for like an hour. And I've never felt more peace, or like just that God was becoming what I needed from Jake. Like I was like, oh, I do feel loved. Like, and there's no one by me. Like I felt peace in my spirit. So that was kind of my turning point, and I think helped.
Yeah. And I think for me, there is an aha moment turning point, but at the same time, nothing fixes itself overnight. Like more cases than not, you just have to wake up every morning and choose it.
Right.
You have to wake up and decide. I had to wake up and decide when I didn't feel love in my heart for my wife, because that's another misconception, is love is not a feeling. Love does perpetuate feelings in us,
right?
But love isn't a feeling, just like faith isn't a feeling.
Sure.
We have to choose love when we don't feel it. That's when love is at its best, is when you don't feel it. You know what? I don't see you, God. I don't see your plan at all. But you know what? I'm going to choose to continue loving you, worshiping you, and following you.
Trust you.
And eventually, you are able to see it. But I think that's what makes our marriage so great, and really any marriage so great, is in the moments where you don't love each other on the surface, when you don't have the butterflies, when you don't have the goosebumps, when you don't want to hold hands and skip.
Yeah, and I think, there's that scripture in Psalm that says that the Lord is near the brokenhearted. And I think that it's never the case that God's not near, that God doesn't hear, but it's typically always that he's doing something, and sometimes the teacher is quiet or silent during the test, in school. Otherwise that'd be really distracting. Trying to take a test here. But, and we don't always, you're right, we don't always see what's happening, but typically it could just be God wanting to build some endurance, or God wanting to, like I said, teach us something, or God wanted to grow us in a way or humble us in a way.
Not that we won't go through tough times again at some point, but I know that because of what we went through, I think the worst is behind us and the best is yet to come.
And that's the cool thing when you get through that, and that's that endurance that I was talking about. Then you can take on that, consider it pure joy when you face these trials, because then you're like, oh, cool, we've been here.
Yeah.
We've dealt with this.
Right.
Kid gets sick.
Right.
We've been here before.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you walk through these things, and it doesn't mean that these storms are hard, but you know, the song, you can praise him through the storm and just watch God do what he does. And so
that's another big thing with marriage. And I know we're running out of time, but when you let go, especially as the husband, when you let go of the, what is it called? The steering wheel.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a special thing in a ship, but when you let go of the steering wheel, 1 degree off over a week is a few miles. Over a month is 50 miles. Over years is hundreds and thousands of miles off from the course. So as a man, I have to continue to go, okay, you know what? Even though everything's going great right now, that doesn't mean I have to let go of the wheel. It doesn't mean I can't keep steering. I have to keep steering the ship in the direction that I know that God wants us.
Good.
Because if I don't, I could wake up one day and go, what happened to us, babe?
Yeah.
You know, what happened? It's you know. So
I hope this is encouraging you guys if you're listening there, and that's so wise, man. It's every day just saying, all right, we need to correct our course a little bit, and because we're human and we mess up and we say something that was wrong or you know out of our flesh, and you know, and so. And
I want to say one last thing, and then I'll I know we got to wrap up, but you know, just like an addict, you know, when they slip up, a lot of the times, you know, you get your chip, you got your 5-year chip, and then when you have a slip up, you give that back and you start back at zero. That is not how it works in the kingdom of God.
It's good.
And it's not how it works in marriage. When you have a slip up, if you have a bad day, don't say to yourself, now we're back to square one.
Yeah.
Okay? Get back on. You took a little detour off the road, but you just got to get back on the road and keep moving forward.
Right,
Because that's a big misconception is when you realize that you're not back at square one, you still are 30 miles ahead of where you started.
Good,
you just had a little detour, get back on the road and keep moving forward.
Anybody out there that's maybe dealing with something in their marriage or struggling or they don't have someone to talk, get in a small group. Talk to somebody. Go talk to your local pastor. Get around people that can help you, and especially if it's like somebody like the Wilders here that have walked through some things, walked through things and learned a lot and seen what God has done in their marriage. And so every situation is going to be different, but I just know that we're stronger together because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so, thank you guys, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Fun. Absolutely.
I love you, buddy.
All right, man. Bye, guys.
You've been listening to Road to Redemption, sharing powerful life testimonies, giving hope to those on their own road to redemption. If you have any comments or questions, we would love to connect with you. You can reach out to us at destinyradio.live. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week on Road to Redemption.